This is what I made last month from Airbnb. That's across 17 properties, but I don't own a single one of them. And that's because I follow a 5-step system that lets me rent any rental property into over 10 grand a month on Airbnb without owning it. And once y'all know this system, you can do the exact same thing no matter where you're at or where you're from, because this works anywhere there is demand for short-term stays. So I'm gonna lay out every single step so y'all can start waking up to Airbnb payouts hitting your phone from properties you don't even own. But first, you need to understand what makes this whole thing work. See, most people hear real estate and immediately they think buying property, getting a mortgage, and saving up hundreds of thousands of dollars for a down payment. And they might be right. And if they want to use that as an excuse because they're too lazy to start making the simplest money you can make, see, what I figured out earlier is that you don't need to own a property to make money from it. You just need to control it. And I know that sounds like some, millionaire guru BS talk on the internet, but it's literally the same thing Airbnb does. They built a $80 billion company off of other people's properties. They don't own one piece of real estate, but they built the infrastructure. And the coolest part is you don't need to be some massive public company to do the same thing. I go out, I find a property, I sign a sublease with the landlord instead of regular tenant lease, and instead of living in it, I furnish it. I put it on Airbnb and I charge guests anywhere from $300 to $500 a night, and in some properties up to $1,000 a night, depending on the property and the market. And during peak events like the Super Bowl, I've charged over $2,000 a night on a single property. So on a single property, let's say I'm paying $3,000 a month in rent on a nice 3-bedroom house. That same property is bringing in over $10,000 a month on Airbnb from guest bookings. And after I pay the rent, the cleaning, and a few small operating costs, I'm keeping around $6,000 to $7,000 in profit from one single property. And I do that across 17 of them at this point. Now, I figured this whole thing out while I was still active duty military. And let me tell y'all, the Navy was not the highlight of my life by any means. I was working 90 plus hours a week, sleeping in the back seat of my truck because I didn't want to sleep in those dirty, nasty, ship beds, and making cold calls to landlords on breaks in the backseat of my truck. And even from that situation, this model still worked because at the end of the day, it's just math. And if the property brings in more than it cost you, you make money, period. So now that y'all know this doesn't require a PhD or take any kind of licenses or certifications whatsoever in mathematics to make 10 to 30 grand a month from properties you don't own, the next thing you need to know is how to do it, because it's not going to set itself up. And that's where the 5-step system I personally use comes into play that you can copy and paste. Step 1 is picking the right city. And this is where a lot of people overthink it because they spend weeks, sometimes months, researching markets, analyzing data, running spreadsheets, or maybe they don't do any of that and they never pull the trigger. Don't nuke it. And for those of y'all that don't know, that's a Navy term for people who overanalyze the simplest things. The reality is simpler than most people make it. You're looking for a city where people are already traveling to, whether that's tourism, business travel, medical professionals, events, military bases, whatever it may be. And if people are booking short-term stays in that city, there's money to be made. One of my students, actually, Javier, set up his first property in Phoenix, Arizona, while he lived in Texas, which can get pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy market. And it's just a city with steady demand. Now, his first month live on Airbnb, he did $15,000 in revenue on a property where his rent was about $3,000 because people are traveling to Phoenix year around and they need a place to stay. So step 1, pick a city where people are already traveling to. You don't need to discover some hidden gem. You just need to be where demand already exists. But picking the right city is only half of it because you can be in the best market in the country and still lose money if you pick the wrong property and set the property up incorrectly. And this next step is where people either set themselves up to win or set themselves up to fail before they even sign a lease. Step 2 is finding a property where the math works. And not every property in a good market is a good deal. The way I look at it is super straightforward. I want to know one thing. Can this property make its rent back in about 10 days or not? And if the answer is yes, the rest of the month is profit. But if it doesn't hit that number, most of the time I move on unless it's just an awesome property. So if my rent is $3,000 a month, I need the property to generate at least $300 a day on average. And you can figure that out by looking what similar Airbnbs by using AirDNA in the area are charging and what their occupancy looks like. Don't just go on Airbnb and try to figure out. You won't figure out what their daily rate or what their occupancy looks like. Use AirDNA. And if the numbers support it, you move forward. And if they don't, you find something else, because there's always another property. That's really the whole filter. The math either works or it doesn't. And once you train your eye for it and you can calculate a property in, minutes, and most of the time, once you get good at it, you can do it at a glance. But the next 3 steps are where this whole thing comes to life. And I'm about to show y'all how to go and get on the phone with a complete stranger, pitch them on letting you run a business out of their property, and walk away with a signed lease on a property that you'll be able to cash flow from every day and every month without having to own it. And real quick, before I do, if you want someone who's already done this dozens of times to help you acquire 0% interest funds, negotiate the property for you, set it up for you, do the interior design for you, launch it live on platforms like Airbnb, and help you set up all the automations for pricing, management, cleaning, everything. I'll leave a link down in the description where you can book a call with me and my team, and we'll map it out together and see if it even makes sense for you at all. And by the way, to help you get started, our in-house business funding team has direct relationships with all the major banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, Amex, Bank of America, so on and so forth, dozens of banks. So we can help you get access to usually in between $75,000 all the way up to $200,000 in 0% interest funds, as long as your credit score is about 680 or above. And the crazy part is it doesn't affect your personal credit. Now back to it. Step number 3 is getting a landlord to say yes. And this is the part that freaks everybody and their mom out, because they think landlords are going to slam the phone down the second they hear Airbnb. And yeah, that could be right, because if you call a landlord and say, hey, I want to Airbnb your property, most of them are going to say no, cuss you out, or just hang up on you. But that's because that's not at all what you should say or how you should pitch it to them. What I learned early on is you never say Airbnb to the landlord ever, right? Instead, you position yourself as a corporate housing agency, because the second a landlord hears Airbnb, before you explain anything to them, they're thinking parties, property damage, noise complaints, like somebody's golden retriever chewing through their baseboards. But when they hear corporate housing, they're thinking long-term lease, guaranteed rent, professional tenants, and in any business, not just Airbnb arbitrage, perception is everything. But the thing about landlords that nobody talks about is that they have a ton of problems with regular tenants. Tenants barely clean, they punch holes in the walls, they stop paying rent, and evictions are a nightmare. So when you come in and tell the landlord that you're going to deep clean the property multiple times a week, keep it in better shape than they probably have it in right now, sign a multi-year lease guaranteeing rent every single month, whether the property is, making a ton of money or not, and you keep the golden retrievers far away from the baseboards, you become the best tenant they've ever had. Now, one of my clients, Daniel, actually spent 7 years active duty, got out of the military, became a realtor, but the income was hit or miss for him. It wasn't enough. So he came in, started working with me, and had his first property locked in within 3 days of starting to work with me. And the wild part is he was on vacation in Australia the entire time it was getting set up. Never had to step foot in the property to get it live. And his first month, he pulled in almost $15,000 in revenue. So the landlord conversation is not as scary as people think. There's a method to the madness, all right? And once you have that method down, it becomes a real conversation, not a cold pitch. Now, step 4 is getting the property set up and live on Airbnb. And most people think this part takes months, renovating, decorating, buying furniture, piece by piece, and watching HGTV for inspiration, but it doesn't. Trust me. This is where this wastes 6 months of their life and half their budget, because they think they need to turn the place into some Pinterest dream home. You don't. And the way I set up my properties is based on one thing and one thing only: revenue. Yes, it's important to have a beautiful aesthetic home that looks good and appealing to people, but at the end of the day, revenue is my main concern because a guest doesn't care if your throw pillows match the curtains. They care if the bed is comfortable, the kitchen has everything that they need, and the place looks clean in photos, and most of all, offers things and amenities that the other properties don't, which give them a reason to book yours and pay more for yours. So instead of spending months picking out furniture piece by piece and agonizing detail over and over, I order everything in bulk before the lease even starts. My team takes care of all of it. They get a crew in there and set up the whole place in just a couple days, and then I bring in a professional photographer to shoot it, take pictures of all of it, and then from there I list it on Airbnb so that everything looks like a place that people want to book. And if we're being real, cool song, right? Anyways, as long as it's better than a hotel, you're good. And as long as it's better than the other competitors in the market, you're good, because hotels suck. And the whole thing from empty unit to taking bookings can happen in under a week if you plan it right. For example, Javier, the same client I mentioned earlier in Texas that had set up his property in Arizona, had his property fully set up and live in about 3 weeks. In his first month, he did almost $15,000 in revenue, similar to Daniel, and 100% occupancy his first month, which is pretty unheard of and almost impossible to do. And I wouldn't say the average by any means, but he accomplished it, and it was insane, charging over $442 a night. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, but just to give you an example, that's what it could look like. Now, once that property is live and making money, a lot of people would stop right here and just try to manage everything themselves. But that's exactly how you turn this into another full-time job instead of a business. And the whole point of doing this is freedom. So step 5 is where the whole thing comes together. Step 5 is automating the entire thing so it runs without you. Because if you're answering every guest message at 2 a.m., coordinating every texting your cleaners manually, adjusting prices yourself every day, you're gonna hit a wall really fast, and you're gonna get really tired of it really fast. And I've seen it happen where people get 1 or 2 properties that they're getting a bunch of bookings, and they get burnt out because they're doing everything manually. So the way that I run mine and the way that I run all of my clients is I've gotten systems handling literally all of it. I got automated messaging for the guest, dynamic pricing that adjusts based on demand in that particular market that changes all day, every day on autopilot, and a cleaning team that gets notified automatically after every guest checks out and they come clean. They get paid out automatically before the next guest checks in. So my properties run whether I'm at my desk, whether I'm on the beach in Spain somewhere, or anywhere else on the other side of the world. And once you've gotten one property automated, you just repeat the process, the same 5 steps for a new property. That's how you go from one property doing 6 or 7 grand a month to a full portfolio doing 6 figures a month without ever having to change the model or taking more hours and putting more hours into the business. So that's the whole system. Now, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. The hardest part of the entire thing is not the model itself. The model is simple. Y'all just, heard it. Y'all saw it. The hardest part is getting started, because the second you decide to do this, your brain is going to come up with every reason not to. The landlord might laugh at you on the phone. Your property might sit there fully furnished, looking beautiful with absolutely nobody in it. You might lose money you don't even have yet, right? And trust me, I've had every single one of those thoughts and worries while sitting in the backseat of my truck between Navy shifts, broke, trying to convince strangers to let me furnish their house and use their house. But what I tell every single person I work with is the same thing. Imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. Let me say it again. Imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing. Do you really want to make money or not? And also, one, I've never gotten a property that hasn't gotten booked out. That would be incredibly ignorant and stupid of me. People always ask, what if it doesn't get booked out? Well, I do the research and analysis prior to, and I set up my properties, my interior design and amenities to know that it will get booked out. So I've never had a property not get booked out. Same thing with all of my clients as well. Properties that we've launched for them, I haven't had an issue of them not getting booked out, because we do the research and analysis prior to, and we set them up correctly to make sure that they do get booked out, right? So for people that ask, what happens if it doesn't get booked out? I don't know. It's never happened, right? Because if you're good with where you are right now, just like I mentioned, do you really want to make money or not? Because if you're good with where you're at right now, just go live your life as it is. and I wish you the best, seriously. But don't sit there and pretend like this is too hard or too complicated, because I just showed y'all real people, Javier, Daniel. I got hundreds of other clients and testimonials aside from myself, who are regular people that came in with zero experience and are now collecting Airbnb payouts every single day from properties that they don't own, didn't have to buy, didn't have to get loans or a mortgage for. But if you want to start making life-changing money, I just showed y'all the exact 5-step system that I use, the same one my clients use, and you can literally copy it and get started today. And if you want my team behind you doing the heavy lifting for you, from getting the 0% interest funds for you, to negotiating the properties, to setting the whole property up, getting it live, and setting up all the automations for you so it runs on an autopilot. I'll leave a link down in the description where you can book a call where we'll look at your current circumstances, figure out what's the best for you in your situation, and map out exactly how to get your first property live and how to get cash flowing immediately. But other than that, if you found this video valuable, if you liked it, drop me a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Peace.